This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
Alongside Garrett Ross, and you notice I'm on this side today because Garrett is on the show and producing today. So Garrett, I have to look at him this way so I don't have to crown my head back. And again, Jack doesn't think he's not here, so we're going to talk crap about him today.
Oh, let's do it.
He doesn't think I tried very hard to break myself of the habit of turning around and looking at you. But also, you're kind of, for lack of a better term, even though you're almost directly to my right, behind me.
It's a blind spot. It would be like a blind spot if we were in a car.
But like if I like walked over behind you, like right now, if I walked over behind you and said something, your natural inclination would be to turn around.
Correct.
So most of the time when you're talking to me, the sound kind of comes because I'm looking over here, like somebody said something. So I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Huh? Okay. So it's just a natural human instinct. So in order to do that, when Garrett's here, I moved to the other side. It made Jack very angry because he's just a rage monster.
He's a technical OCD.
Yes.
individual.
He's like, we have to change this and that and this and that, And you and I, like, Garrett, I would not describe myself as a fully chill person. You know that?
Correct.
I would say I'm a medium chill person. That I have a button you can hit, and you've seen it.
I've seen it.
You've seen it where I can go, but most of my life is here. I'm not below. Right. There's no below. Like I'm not like Craig, very low.
Yeah.
Like he operates here. I'm here. Smokey operates here.
Way up there.
Way up here. I'm right here. Like this is where I am. This is where you live.
I stay in the middle. I try to stay in the middle.
Yeah.
Pretty even kill.
Jack lives about right here.
Yes.
And part of that is just youthful exuberance. Eventually the world will beat him down to where he comes to here.
It's slowly coming. I think he's starting to get a realization. He's about to get a reality check with the world.
Well, I mean, like the thing is it happens to all of us.
It does.
Every single one of us thinks that like this is how it's going to be, and I'm always going to have this kind of feeling about something. And I'll just tell you that, like, it's the reason. Look, my father was completely against tattoos. So, like, I could have never gotten one.
Yeah.
Like, even when he was alive, it would just devastate him. Like, my sister got them to piss him off.
Okay.
Like, that's why she did it. There's no other reason. Like, she can BS me and say, like, oh, no, it was because I really felt inspired by this. She's not that deep of a person. Like, it was... I'm a teenager. I'm angry. This
is what I'm going to do. Yeah,
this is what I'm going to do. Like, and the other thing was she still hid them from him for a long time until it was just like, she couldn't anymore, And it was just a thing that he did not believe in, right? And he's an old-fashioned kind of a guy. But the thing about tattoos for me, and you are a guy, you have several. How many?
3 right now.
3. Like, what would be your tipping point? Like, where would you stop?
Man, I would get a bunch, honestly. Like, my rule is, like, I'm not going neck up, but, like, everything down. Well, for the most part, everything down. It's fair game.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, because you have a couple. And look, it's different. Like, I don't judge anybody until you've, like, gone past the tipping point where you just look like a kid's Trapper Keeper with like random stickers on it. Then you're like, then this flows together. Like, if you were an actual art gallery, like people be walking around like, I don't understand what the artist is saying here.
Right.
I don't get it. Like there's that tipping point where it's like, it doesn't make any sense to me anymore. Then I'll kind of make fun of you, especially if you go neck up. Like if you get then I will absolutely make fun of you. But no, and again, I don't begrudge anybody anything, but the reason I cannot get a tattoo is I know me and I know things that I like really like at certain points.
Right.
Eventually I'll be like, well, it's fine. I'm not like, but I'm never going to like people who get, there are people out there with tattoos of bands who are not together anymore.
Correct.
And only had like a few hits.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, there are people out there with a Chumbawamba tattoo and they were like, this is great. Like they not only love Tub Thumping, they love the whole album. And so like the whole thing to them is like, oh my gosh, this is so great. Right. And then And then eventually, like, you know, you're 45 years old.
Yeah.
You know, and like, you're at the beach and like people are like, Chumbawamba.
Yeah.
What? Is that a dare? It's an old Chumbawamba, so it's like fading.
One of my buddies I grew up with, he went, because like all of our classes for about 5 years in a row, the senior class got to go on a trip to Cancun. And so they were down there and he was wasted and he ended up getting this tattoo and he had no idea what it was. And about 3 or 4 years after he got it, he finally realized it was a rib cage. And he's just got some stupid tattoo on it for no reason.
Yeah. Okay. I'll put it this way. The reason I fell in love with stand-up comedy, the reason that when I was very young, the comedian that got me into it was Bill Cosby, who was one of the greatest stand-up comedians of all time. What if I just decided when I was 25 years old, 20 years ago, and we all still thought Bill Cosby was cool, to get a Bill Cosby tattoo? Things change, man.
Yeah, I've always been apprehensive about getting, like, I'm not going to get nothing like that. Like, yeah. Like, I would get a Jim Morrison one and probably John Lennon, something like that, but that's about it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, there's nothing new that's going to come out about those guys,
exactly.
right?
Yeah.
They've been dead for a very long time.
Yes.
What we know. We know what we know. Yeah, there's nothing, like, you're not going to probably find out anything about them. Jim Morrison, by the way, Florida State University.
He did
just want to throw that out there.
Briefly, yes.
Yeah, he, best briefly. It was Florida State and then drugs.
Yep.
And then college seemed not as important. But, yeah, so anyway, you know, like, you learn those things, and like I have friends who have like gotten one, and like they'd be like, well, I really wish, like, if I'd have gotten it now, it would be this. You're like, oh, that would be kind of cool. This thing is dumb.
Yeah.
Like, you know, the thing you got. I worked with a girl who got like this weird surfing dude on her arm, like on her whole shoulder. And I remember thinking, like, and we were young. We were with 23 at the time. And I even told her, I was like, I don't get it. I don't get it. And I even said, like, my philosophy is, like, get it if when you're 40, you're still going to think it's awesome. Because it's not going anywhere.
Right.
You know, it's only going to get lighter, you know, and like there are things, like, it's just, you know, when you're 40, you think it's going to be awesome. That's great. And if you can honestly tell me that when you're 60, you're going to think it's awesome. Like, think about it that way. You're a person who seems to me that you would think that way. Like,
yeah.
Yeah. Like, I'm never going to go like, oh, well, that was a dumb thing, you know? Sure enough. Like, and I have not talked to this girl in years, but we're on Facebook or whatever, Instagram. And like a year ago, I just randomly saw a post from her where she had to like get it redone. It looked a lot better now, but it was like, you know, when she hit like probably you know, we're the same age, but like probably about 10 years ago, she's like, yeah, this is dumb. I'm a teacher, you know, like I have to explain this to people.
Yeah.
You know,
it happens.
Yeah. What is that? So, but yeah. So, yes, Alan, I was a big fan of Bill Cosby. I was a huge fan of him.
I love Fat Albert.
Fat Albert. Like, look, I love the Cosby Show. I'll tell you, I listened to the album Why Is There Air 100 times. I can almost repeat it for you today. It was so good. So good. To My Brother Russell, with Whom I Slept With, is one of the best comedy albums that has ever been released. But
things change.
Things change. Things change. I was devastated. Devastated.
Yeah.
The same as all those people in Buffalo or Los Angeles or wherever that was like juice forever, you know, on their arm. So things change. And I think with Jack, like, eventually you find out that, like, there's stuff you, like, usually super care. Like, I'll tell you, even Smokey, who we said operates here, has hit a point in his life where he's like, oh, I don't even care anymore.
Yeah, he's dialed it back. Like,
he's dialed it back.
I told Jack that plenty of times. Like, Smokey's dialed it back.
You get, like, you don't even know.
You don't have a clue.
You don't even know. You don't even know. Like, and part of the thing is, like, and I'll just say, like, sometimes we have arguments here, and then, like, we're, like, back in time, and then all of us realize, like, wait a minute. There's no, we don't have to, the rules are different now.
Exactly.
Like, what are we doing? Like, there's no overlord.
Yes.
Like, like when we were honestly like in the old place, it was like dog fighting thing.
Constantly.
Where like, there's a guy like hitting us with a stick. I'm not really mad at this other pit bull. I'm not mad, but like you're hitting us both with sticks, and then we can't only fight each other, so we're gonna.
That reminded me. I had a neighbor that they had like 3 dogs in their backyard, and they would always fight. This fool would come out with a cattle prod and light them up.
Oh my god, it's so cruel.
Hell are you doing?
So cruel. Like dogs are very loving animals.
Oh,
like the only reason dogs turn into vicious.
It's because of stuff like that.
It's because of out of flight or flight instinct,
Yes.
like outside resources. There's a reason that the dog was a super easy animal to domesticate.
Mm-hmm.
Like wolves and dogs, like it was easy. Like there's a reason that no one has really cracked lion yet. Like you can get close. Like I've seen plenty of people like on the wildlife preserve and the lion comes up and hugs them and won't attack them and all those things. But still,
that's still a fine line, man.
But you can't I can take my dog out on the street and, it might bark at somebody, but I can pull it back. Like, what if I'm taking my lion around, and it's a chill lion.
Yeah.
It's a chill lion. And then somebody comes at me or it thinks somebody comes at me.
Oh, there's no, yeah.
There's nothing I can do.
There's nothing.
Let me all right, well, sorry.
That's on you.
You shouldn't have dropped that quarter. I don't know. Well, hope you were delicious.
Yep.
That's your only, thing. So yeah, there's a reason that hasn't happened yet. I'm amazed by bears that will curl up with people, but
yeah,
even still, that's not the whole thing. Nobody's in the woods like we did with dogs back in caveman days going, okay, bear. Come on.
The person that did it ended up getting eaten by him. You remember that
exactly.
guy?
Yeah.
The grizzly guy?
Yeah. No.
He had a good run.
Here's what I tell you about lions and tigers. Siegfried and Roy had great relationships with lions and tigers, but even one of them was like, listen, if that little German magician makes me disappear again, I'm eating his ass
over.
right now. I'm going to eat him. You say I won't, you say I won't. I'm tired of this.
Yep.
I'm tired of this, and I'm latching on. So, yeah, yeah. So that's the opening segment. That's the opening segment. Garrett, a lot of coaches in the last couple days. Hugh Freeze now following Brian Kelly saying, Hugh Freeze actually is the one who used the correct verbiage.
Yeah.
Spencer Danielson at Boise State, he made waves yesterday when he's like, look, no freshmen are eligible for NIL in our program.
Yeah, that's kind of illegal.
And it was like, well, I mean, you can't say they aren't. But what he was saying is, look, our collective is not going to pay for recruits. Mm-hmm. Now, we have a thing, you can come in, and if you're an upperclassman, you can get NIL, but clarified that if you're a freshman and somebody wants to pay you, that's from outside. It's not
right.
That's fine. You can do whatever you want, but they're not going to do that. Okay. And we'll see if that works for them. They're probably going to have to amend that policy slightly.
Well, I mean, if it starts impacting them, I would say directly in Mountain West play, if you start sliding, you're going to have to adjust on the fly quick because if you can't not do that and then have San Diego State or somebody doing that and be I think it's kind of the case situation that we're going to see unfold with Clemson this year. You can not take transfers and that's great, but everybody else is going to do it and you're going to get left behind. So that's kind of a slippery slope. I do understand where they're coming from because I would like to see somebody come in and prove it without me having to give you a lump sum just to be on my roster and not guarantee that you're going to be here after spring or fall or whatever.
I'm all for his policy.
Yeah.
I'm all for it. I think it's very reasonable. I just know that he has no means of really enforcing it.
Right.
There's nothing outside of getting kids and their parents to buy into that that is enforceable. So, and look, Might work. Look, might work, might not. We'll see. I just think that, like, look, going out and saying that, there's going to be a lot of parents who are like, damn right. Yeah. No, we need him to go here. If somebody wants to, give him an affiliate marketing deal for talking about sugar-free soda pop, then we'll do that.
Well, I mean, didn't that real NIL?
Yeah, that's what it's supposed to be.
Real NIL?
That's what Livy Dunn is doing. All right. And let me tell you, like, a lot of people are going to, like, be mad at Livy Dunn because she's a very pretty girl who this has come her way because of, like, that. All right.
Yes.
But I can tell you, we're in the same, you and me and her, and so we're all in the same business now when it comes to marketing things and being on online social platforms. We're on YouTube, right?
Yep.
So it's a hustle. Like, she has to, like, and she has an agent and everything that does that, but that person is working hard because there's a lot of people who want at her. Yep. There's a lot of people who are like, oh yeah, let's do this. And then, finding out what works is going to be long-term, which is not just like, fly by night, what's good for their client. Like, that's a hustle, So if those kids are willing to hustle those things themselves, I think that's a good learning experience for them. Absolutely. And if the NIL collective helps them do that, even when they're freshmen, especially if they land on the scene pretty large, then I think that'll be good for them. But Hugh Freeze said it. We had Brian Kelly, saying that, we're not in the, we're not going to
players.
Yeah. Buying players. And when he says buying players, he means what Hugh Freeze said of bidding wars, where it is this and that and the other, because ultimately, I think very few of them are going to make life-changing money. Like Bryce Young can make life-changing money, but a lot of Bryce Young's came from Dr. Pepper. Dr. Pepper would have given him, he was a Heisman Trophy winner. Same with Caleb Williams. Like, no matter what school they were at, they were going to get a lot of money because they were able to because of being the Heisman Trophy winner.
And their position. You're
quarterback.
You're the star quarterback.
Yeah, and look, defensive tackles right now are doing really well. They're doing really well, but also, like, outside of, like, Walter Nolan probably made some life-changing money where he can probably, take a couple years off if he didn't want to be in the NFL, and backpack around Europe if he so chose. But a lot of this things, like $100,000 is great and it would change my life in the short term, but I can't live off $100,000 forever.
No.
So if my thing is you're going to give me $100,000 a year and I have 2 years left, that's great. That's a wonderful salary, but I want to make $100,000 a year for the rest of my life. I don't want to, like, it's great. Like $100,000 to go play college football somewhere, or $250,000 is something you can live on for a little while if you do it right. But at the end of it, like, you get kids, you get married, you go buy a house, like that money goes away pretty dang fast. Like, so you should not be, and I agree with them, like they don't need to be making decisions on kids who are trying to get them in bidding wars. They need to pay kids who want to be there. That's the thing. You've got to pay kids who want to be on your roster.
Right.
If they want to be on your roster and they're going to contribute and they're invested in being in the school there, then that's the ones you got to pay. And I think I think this is the market. I talked about it at the beginning, the market correction. I think this is our market correction.
Well, it's got to come from somewhere because what the current setup isn't sustainable. Like, I don't think LSU is a good example, right? Like LSU right now, they got money. They're going to have money, but they are in a position where Texas is coming in. They're not competing with Texas financially. Nobody can really compete with Texas financially. So I think it's kind of a learning curve. It's a case-by-case scenario, but you can't expect like your donors at these state schools.
Even Texas.
Yeah.
Even Texas. Like, they can get all drunk on money all they want, but
if the results aren't there, you're eventually going to stop giving your money.
The other thing is you can only pay so many guys that are worth it.
Right.
Like, you can go and get 7 defensive tackles, but really you're only going to have 4 in the rotation. So you've got 3 guys you're paying to hopefully stick around when they could go make like similar money at Oklahoma where they decided not to commit and play.
Right.
So like it's those things like, are you going to play? Are you going to make money? Those are the things that I would say. Like if I'm a kid like Dominic Williams, right? My assessment, and I know that like everybody's saying he was in a bidding war, and maybe he was. Again, these things are so very vague, and like there's so much talk about him. If I'm Dominic Williams and I'm leaving TCU, my thing is, okay, I'm probably going to start everywhere I go.
Right.
there might be a couple places that they'd be like, well, you'll be in a 4-man rotation because they're just so stacked.
Like Georgia.
Right. Like, well, yeah, we'll take you. We'll take you and we'll give you, $225,000 or whatever, whatever you got.
Yeah.
I don't know what he got. But, like, we'll give you this much money, but, like, you're going to, like, you're not going to play as much. But, like, if you're like he chose to go to Oklahoma, like Oklahoma and Texas both had big needs. I'd be like, I want to go to a place that has big needs and can meet my, like, fair market value.
Right.
But I'm not going to go to, like, if they've already signed 4 defensive tackles and they're just, like, their collective is just on a coked up spending spree, then I'm like, you know what? Like, I can just go somewhere else. These are the things, again, you don't know with youth, and you hope that they have good parents or people leading their decision. But sometimes I think it's just like, oh, well, if we can get $25,000 more dollars, that's great, $25,000 more. But, like, again, I can tell you as a guy who once that was my whole year salary, $25,000 doesn't last that long. No. In fact, it lasts about 11 months of the 12.
And I mean, I think you brought up a good point the other day. Like, say school A is going to offer you $25,000, and then you go and talk to school B, and it's like, 28. Like, is it really worth it? Like, if you're happy and you're content, even if you got to wait a little longer to play, I think ultimately that in the setting and the familiarity and being developed would mean more in the long run than getting paid up front. Like, if I could I would rather go somewhere where I can make similar money, be properly developed, and be set up to have a sustainable career in the NFL where I can continue to make money. I don't want to go somewhere where it's not going to benefit me in the long run. Like, and I think a lot of the guys who are bouncing around and are, like, going after the big money probably realize that maybe they don't have the dog to go in and out every day, take what it takes to put the work in and day out, and they know that they're not going to have a long-term career in the NFL. So I think it's a case-by-case situation. I think a good player that we got to see it unfold on the field, but Micah Hudson, if you look at Micah Hudson, a 5-star receiver out here, Lake Belton, he could have gone anywhere in the nation. He chose to go to Texas Tech because that staff, even when they were at Baylor, were the ones who made the big impression on him. So he went to play for a staff and a team where he could have gotten more money going to Ole Miss.
Yeah.
But that, at the end of the day, he made the decision for the development and the camaraderie that he has in Lubbock.
Yeah, absolutely. Those two things they don't need to be mutually exclusive. Like, I like this school, but they weren't paying me enough. Like, really, this is a finite amount of time. This is not your professional life.
No, not at all.
Like, do those two things together. Like, all right, if they're going to give me this much money, okay, that's good. I can live on that, and this is where I want to be. It is like, I know that there might be somebody in the chat room or watching this right now. This is blasphemes. Like, you got to take the most money win, but it may not be the best opportunity. Like, if you do things solely because of money, you're going to wind up kind of miserable because then that's all you're chasing. It's like, oh, this is this much, this is that much. And I'll give you the example of, like, about 15 Eddie Murphy movies. Like, there's really not a funnier dude in the world than Eddie Murphy, right? And he has a ton of movies that are excellent, excellent movies. And then he has some that are total, absolute garbage. And when you say, like, how can he make Trading Places and Coming to America and 48 Hours and Beverly Hills Cop and then make Norbit? Yeah. Well, I'll tell you why. Because Norbit paid him more money than all his other ones combined, and dude's got kids. Yep. And he's like, what's it going to do to him, really? He's still Eddie Murphy. So, like, he does that. But, again, like, you look how many Eddie Murphy movies you see coming out now. Like, he's at a point where he's slowed down and he's been selective about what he's doing because he can. But the bottom line is, like, you've got to by the way, I've also heard that Netflix has offered him, like, silly money to do stand-up again.
Oh, I'm sure. They want everybody.
He hasn't, like, and maybe he's going to do it, but it would be silly money. So, but, like, those things, like, you just, sometimes you're not happy. I've heard tons of people. I've heard athletes say, for, like, professional athletes, like, I wasn't happy in Milwaukee, but, like, it was a thing I did for the family, but we didn't like it there. Right. Or whatever. I mean, and again, I'm using that as an example, but, like, yeah, it's, they always kind of wanted to go back. Look, Freddie Freeman's playing for the Dodgers right now, making a ton of money, and is the best lineup in baseball and all that. But it broke his heart to leave Atlanta. Yeah. But he made that decision. I think he's fine, but, like, there's probably a lot of him that's like, man, am I chasing all this money even though I'm going to make a lot of money for leaving a place that I genuinely love.
Well, look at Scott Drew.
Yeah.
I mean, you could have easily taken way more money, more NIL, yada, 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 bigger fan base, whatever, but you have everything you need. You're comfortable. Your family's happy. Like, that extra money isn't going to bring you more joy than what you have here.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's plenty of examples about it. It's a case-by-case basis, but ultimately, I think you've got to be smarter about – you got to have a bigger picture vision when you go into this. And unfortunately, a lot of these kids and the people around them, handlers and everything, you're kind of not looking out for yourself at times, and you can fall into situations that screw you. But I don't know, man. It's slippery. It's a slippery game out there right now.
Yeah. No, absolutely. It is ridiculous. So, no, but I agree. Like, there's a lot of times I'll hear coaches, and look, if you guys saw my Dabo Sweeney thing this week, I'm going to keep pushing that because I want people to see it. We're going to do more of it. But like, if you saw the Dabo thing, like, I'll call out coaches when they say dumb things or they say things that don't make sense. And like the whole point about Dabo's thing in the transfer portal is like, he's trying to tell me 2 + 2 = 5. Like, no, it is what it is. But these coaches are all saying something that, like, yes, this is how we'd like to approach this. The other thing is that's for the fans to know. It also needs to send a message to their alumni like, hey, let's be smart about this.
Yeah.
I think there are some groups that have really good, smart collectives that are doing a lot of good things. And then there's some, like you saw that first wave of one at Florida that was just, they got in a bidding war with Jaden Rashada. Like they just did. And then they were like, oh, Miami's going to give you 7? 13.
Yeah.
We'll do 13. And then he's like, all right, I'm here in Gainesville. When I gave you my direct deposit information, like, when's that first payment of the $13 million? And they're like, do you do crypto? So that's a different thing. They can't do that. And there are stories that are going to be like that. Jaden Rashada is probably right now the most famous one,
right,
and may wind up being the most famous one. But I think we are seeing the market correction for sure. When we come back, we're going to do a little bit of a shorter show today because Garrett and I have a couple things we need to do before the regular show. And so we're going to do another shorter segment or a shorter show. The next segment, 6 winners from the spring portal, according to our friend Pete Nakos of On3. Wanted to get Garrett's opinion on this and bounce it back and forth because I do agree. The only one I don't agree with is, Auburn's, I'm going to give an incomplete to Hugh Freeze, who also, though, made this point when he was talking about bidding for players, developing the guys he has and likes, or going and getting somebody. So that's another question right there that we'll address in this, because Auburn is one of these 6 schools who had a big spring. One of them is on pure volume. And I think you know who I'm talking about. This is the Triple Option on 365 Sports.
If your business is like most, you need things done quickly. But if you're still tying your critical applications together on multiple shared public networks, you've probably been feeling the slowdown. And that's no good for business. A private UPN fiber network can get you and your business moving at the speed of light. Whatever you need, we can build it. Internet, Metro Ethernet, Waves, dark fiber. We deliver custom private networks and are focused on business customers only. Our next generation 100% fiber optic infrastructure offers you low latency and ultra scalable bandwidth with speeds up to 100 gigabit to run your critical applications. Your connection won't be limiting your performance anymore. It's diverse and scalable, so it can grow and change as your business grows and changes. And with a secure carrier-grade private network, you'll have all the reliability you need. Contact UPN today to learn more. Fast just got faster.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
Alongside G Money, Garrett Ross, Paul Catalina. alongside Garrett runs the show over there. And Garrett, okay, Pete Nakos, frequent guest on 365 Sports.
Pete's good.
Yeah, really good. And his life is a nightmare for like.
Dude, I don't know how the hell he does it. I'm going to be honest with you.
NIL and transfer portal, all that. Like, you know, if you're a beat writer covering professional sports, like there are times like during the season, like Woj and Adam Schefter and those guys, like there are times, you know, Ian Rappaport, Tom Pelissero, like all year long, you're going to have news and things going on. But there are like times of the year where it's just like, holy crap, this is like an absolute hurricane.
Yep.
And the thing is, though, that you know, like, where everything's coming from.
It's like seasons, right?
You have but you also have a finite amount of teams that are involved in something.
Yeah.
The transfer portal, literally, like, no Major League Baseball free agent takes 12 visits.
No.
Anywhere, right? They take like 4. Like Ohtani went to like 4 places, right? So like it's a big story and you're following Ohtani along, but it's not 4. But like Pete Nakos has to follow all these athletes.
Everybody.
Yeah. And the other thing is like there's really like because it's now shifting the balance of power in such a way in college football where like it's hard to project out. Like there's just so many different things you have to chase down. So like guys like Pete Nakos, Max Olson, like Max Olson not on today.
Yeah.
Gee, wonder why. Portal.
Doesn't stop.
Pretty soon, like we're getting to the point where you've got to make your decision so that you can go register for classes in June and get on campus, you know, in time to be in summer workouts with your team, with your new team. So here are the 6 teams that he said help themselves in the spring portal window.
Okay.
And they are listed alphabetically. Auburn, Colorado, Miami, Oklahoma, Oregon, and UCF. Some of these are on pure volume and some of these are on pure star power. We'll start with Auburn. The biggest one is Keandre Lambert-Smith, the wide receiver from Penn State. But they did get big people up front on both sides of the ball. And a handful of others. They did not, however, get a quarterback, but Hugh Freeze says he would rather develop Peyton Thorne, which maybe Peyton Thorne's not been developed. You know, maybe like...
I mean, we've seen it for Michigan State players.
Yeah.
Legitimately, we've seen it.
Yeah. So, you know, and not that he, like, my question is okay, you had 1 year with him. This is your second year with him. You know, will you change your tune if last year is like this year? Or this year's like last year?
I mean, you're going to have to.
Yeah.
Like, to me, like,
and plus he didn't get the Liberty quarterback didn't come.
Oh, Caden Salter.
Yeah, Caden Salter didn't get in the portal. So
yeah, that was a weird one. I kind of think Caden's where he needs to be. Honestly,
yeah, I do. But like honestly, Hugh Freeze would have gone and gotten him.
Yeah, he could have. I mean, there have been a few different guys that have hit in the portal that would have made sense at Auburn. That's where I'm kind of hesitant. Like I know Hugh Freeze can develop talent. I'm not going to knock that, especially quarterbacks, but I just don't trust having to rely on Thorne given what other teams in the SEC have done. And like Auburn didn't really blow the doors open last year. They were a pretty good team. I know they took Bama to the wire and it took a miracle play, but that was a rivalry game and everything's out the window there. I think they've done okay. I think Auburn once again this year is going to be about a middle of the pack team in the SEC. And honestly, I think they're definitely going to be behind Texas, and they're in a position to where they could be behind Oklahoma. Just kind of I think Oklahoma and Auburn might be on the same page, honestly.
Yeah. Well, and we'll see. Like I think, you know, I want to see. I want to see what year 2 of Hugh Freeze, which I think will be improved. But again, you're still in the SEC.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
You know, like there's no more SEC West, which is good news and bad news.
No, it's everybody.
Like you know, Florida's, you know, like there's no SEC East or West, but guess what? It's everybody now. So like Florida can't, they're like, oh great. Oh no.
Yep.
That means we've got a wonderful. Colorado, who has had many more players walking out the door, but most of their gains are net positives or better players. Yeah. Like they had to fill up volume last year and try to get better, which they did.
Right.
They were 3 games better last year. Can they be 3 games better or more this year? Maybe. We'll see. Like, all of it hinges on protecting Shedeur Sanders and being able to run the ball and being able to actually stop somebody when you want to.
I don't know. Like, I know the talent they've brought in is better, especially in the trenches. You can't deny that. But at the same time, depth really means something. And you're making a jump to where the Big 12 is going to be a lot more competitive week in and week out than what they faced last year. I think you have film now for teams to study on what they like to do offensively, even though they've made changes there. You still know that Shadeur's going to throw the ball. It's good every time. Like, all you got to do is contain Shadur, and you're going to be fine. But I think ultimately, while they are better starter-wise across the board, the lack of depth is going to catch up with them like it did last year, and the pass is going to be a lot more difficult at the end of the day.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll see. I think they're making a bowl game this year. I think they're probably winning a bowl game. Depends on if Shadur plays in that bowl game.
Yeah.
But we'll see. We'll see what happens. This one I totally agree with. Miami. They have helped themselves tremendously. They have added people who are going to help them now. And they need help. Like, some teams need a little bit of help now to get them over the top. That you've seen those transfers that have done that.
Yeah.
Justin Fields did that at Ohio State, like got him over the top a little bit. They were right there. They got them into the playoff. Or helped them like re-solidify who they were going to be. And then actually Justin Fields helped push LSU over the top.
Yeah.
Truth be told.
A little bit.
by sending
appreciate that,
by
Justin.
sending the savior of Tigerland, Joe Burrow.
Whose wrist? My man's wrist is not doing good. Bless my man's wrist.
Still,
it's not.
Thought
good.
he was
I heard
starting
Albert
again.
Breer talking about it this morning. I don't think it's that good. I don't think it's good.
Oh man,
long term, I don't think it's good.
Oh, that's a bummer.
Yeah,
but Damian Martinez, Sam Brown, Simeon Barrow, Jalen Alderman from Louisville, Deanna Hill from Marshall. Like they filled out starter spots. That's what they needed to do. Like, get better at the starters. Like, they've got some young depth. They certainly do. They've built up some talent that people like, but they have adding Damian Martinez to help out Cam Ward and Sam Brown to help out Cam Ward and Xavier Restrepo and Jacoby George makes that offense really potentially lethal. And that is not something you could have said in a long time. But like I said on the top 5 yesterday, it is squarely on the coaching staff's shoulders right now.
Yeah, I mean, the talent that they have to work with there, if it goes wrong, it's inexcusable. Like, you can't blame it on the talent. It's all going to be on coaching. I think that the moves they make this year, to me, kind of remind me of how Florida State stacked their roster last year. You got the key players at every and most of your starting positions that matter. D-line, linebacker, you got a quarterback in, playmakers in the outside. I think it's eerily similar to what Florida State did. I don't know if they're going to be able to be that successful because I got more faith in Norvell than I do Cristobal, just because we've seen him.
He's one game over 500 as a coach, as a head coach.
But see, I think last year you had a lot of people making that same argument about Sark, and he was able to do it and take that next step. I don't know if Cristobal is necessarily there yet, but if he can't do it with this team, then I think you've got some real concerns in Miami about the future.
Yeah. Okay, now we've got a couple that are just 2 players. Oregon and Oklahoma both signed. Branson Hickman from SMU goes up to Oklahoma, really good offensive lineman. I think he's probably going to play center there. And Dominic Williams, who we talked about earlier. Oklahoma's and I think their fans need to, they're doing kind of a gradual thing. They had an unprecedented thing happen to them where a coach left of his own volition that didn't retire.
And he took your Heisman quarterback.
Yeah. Until it was something they never had to worry. One day Bob Stoops woke up and was like, you know what? I would like to golf and fish and coach when I want to. I don't want to recruit anymore. I'm tired. I want to enjoy my son's careers, which he certainly has, and do some things that I want to do. And the coach is going to be this brilliant guy that I hired 2 years ago that everyone in coaching knew was going to be a head coach really soon. So here you go, Oklahoma. I've delivered you this guy. And Oklahoma thinks, well, this is Lincoln Riley's our head coach until he goes to the NFL.
I think everybody thought
that's what they're because they don't lose. Oklahoma loses coaches when they retire or are fired. Or, and like Barry Switzer had to leave because
that's a mutual separation.
That was a thing like, well, I kind of have to. But like they don't lose people they want to lose.
No.
Like that's not how it is. And then all of a sudden Lincoln Riley's off to USC and the whole world's different, right?
Yep.
And so Brent Venables is doing a gradual build, and you can tell he didn't subscribe to his former boss's transfer portal thing, and mostly because he couldn't. Like, he couldn't have been 2 years ago like, well, we're just going to do it the old-fashioned way. Yeah. Like, no. You've got 20 going out the door. You got to make sure that 20 more come in. Like, you've got to have bodies. You got to have people that can play. Also, like, that's an opportunity for Oklahoma to, like, or for other people to be like, oh, well, Oklahoma didn't care about me before. I bet you they care now.
Yeah.
And I can go there. Oregon, who did most of their work back in December, the Evan Stewart, or January, the Evan Stewarts.
Dylan Gabriel, all that.
Gabriel, all that. Added Derek Harmon, the other defensive tackle from Michigan State.
He's pretty good.
Yeah. And Peyton Woodyard, a safety from Alabama. That's, he's a 4-star recruit just this year, so he hasn't played yet. That's just one of those things that after spring, well, I'm not a Kalen DeBoer guy. I'm just going to go be a Dan Lanning guy. I was initially going to be a Nick Saban guy and then changed. UCF, and we'll wrap it up with this. Two quarterbacks in this entire cycle. Ja'Cory Brown from Miami comes in, and he'll be second on the depth chart behind KJ Jefferson, learning for a year. And that's a good, like, physical comp as to what their skills are. So we'll see if Ja'Cory Brown, who was a really highly recruited guy when he went into Miami, can, like, get coached up by Gus Malzahn. On the show today at 3:10, by the way.
Be there.
And then Penny Boone, who's had quite a journey, but he joins the backfield of R.J. Harvey, wide receiver Jacoby Jones from Ohio, plus a bunch of people up front. They've filled a lot of positions. UCF, to me, has potential to wind up if this all works out, this should be potential to wind up in the Big 12 championship game if it goes right. Now, the problem is that, like, Kansas and Kansas State are both going to be really, really good.
Yes.
Iowa State, I think, will be very good in a tough out. West Virginia is going to be a tough out. Tech should be better. Utah is in this thing. Arizona's in this thing. So it's hard. It's going to be hard. I'll just say probably harder than it was last year.
It should
for
be.
a lot of people, because even though Texas and Oklahoma are out, didn't necessarily have to play both those schools.
Yeah.
And they gave Oklahoma all they wanted. And did they play Texas?
I don't think they played Texas,
Yeah.
but they went into Norman and gave them hell.
Yeah. So like that, like there was like, there's those things, but like now, like every week's going to be about, it's kind of like the football conference looks like the basketball conference in that there's not a lot of separation from bottom to top completely. I mean, there's going to be like Arizona State, I think, is going to have problems.
Yeah.
Like, I think they're going to have problems. They're still very new into what they're doing, and they don't have an athletic director, and
Yeah, they got some
a lot of
systematic issues.
Really bad decisions have been made.
Which sucks, because that school, man, like
Arizona State, to me, sounds like when you hear about how much money Britney Spears spends, and like for nothing, you're like, man, you like.
Or like Vince Young on cheesecakes.
Yeah, like what are you?
It's like, what are you
doing,
doing,
man? Like,
hell?
do you not understand like who you are? Like Arizona State is athletically completely. They've got probably got people for years screaming inside that athletic department are like, you know how many schools that are in crappier places than this?
Yes.
Are kicking our ass,
dude. You're in freaking Phoenix. You can get talent.
You're not only in Phoenix, you're in the nicest part of Phoenix.
Yes.
Tempe, Scottsdale's right there. Like, again, like, Kim Coulter lives there. Like,
I love Phoenix.
Look, listen,
I love Arizona.
I'll tell you this, Kim's a very successful gentleman. Very successful. He is not a person who's going to live in a place in his life where he gets to do whatever he wants to do because of his success and how hard he worked. That sucks. I'll tell you right now, he's not going to do that.
Nope.
Most of the people in that area have chosen to live there because it's really nice.
Yes,
it's
awesome.
really, really nice. And then you've got this school in the middle of it who's doing some good things on the academic side, and they've built that up and built that up and built that up. And then you're like, well, what about our extracurriculars? What about our sports? What about the front porch of the university? And it's like, meh.
Yeah, well, it's there.
It's there. I mean, people have the opportunity, and like what the hell are you doing? What are you doing?
I don't get it.
They're like a really really good looking person that like, listen, all we want you to do is stand here in this shirt and these jeans and take pictures. And like,
yeah, that's not for me.
We're going to pay you $1 million. Like, I mean, just like 20 pictures in these jeans.
Yeah, I'm not feeling it.
I don't want to go.
Yeah.
Like, come on. So I do think they're gonna struggle a bit. But like UCF, like if KJ Jefferson hits, like if they have consistency, if they're year 2, like they can really make some moves. Now, the schedule, like again, you don't really. I went through. Jack created this little.
I got to check that out.
It's really cool what he did. I wound up having 2 schools at 12-0 and one at 11-1. And it was like, this is I maybe didn't really. I was just playing it like week by week.
Yeah,
I wasn't thinking about it holistically. Like, I wish you had added a tracker as to where you are as you scroll down the thing, because I wasn't thinking about it then. Like, I made a lot of teams, like, really bad, and others like, well, this week is not a good matchup for them. That's a great matchup there. This is home, you know. So I'll have to go through and make another pass at it. But I did, like, I'm moderately bullish on UCF if all this works out.
I think UCF, to me, when they came into the Big 12, I was like, damn, this is going to be a team that in the future is going to probably be one of the year in and year out top teams in the league. Yeah. Like, your location for talent is ridiculous that you get to recruit in. You have one of the best coaches and player-friendly coaches and offensive mind geniuses in the nation, and Gus Malzahn. You are sitting somewhere where you can wait for players to come get homesick and come home in the portal, and you can pick them off. I think UCF is going to be really dangerous. Last year, I think we saw flashes of what they could be. Ultimately, just like every other team that entered the Big 12, they just didn't have the depth from coming up from a group of 5 program. I think you're going to see them take a step forward this year, and then they should be even better the year following. I think UCF is here to stay, and honestly, they are probably going to be one of the best programs year in and year out for the Big 12 going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you to everybody who watched today. That's going to do it for us. Again, we need the extra about 10 minutes here today. So we're going to end a little bit early. We've got Gus Malzahn and Eric Morris today. So that's 2 coaches. We've got Sam Kahn and we've got Mike Craven, plus the top 5 and Craig Smokes off the radar. This is 365 Sports. Thanks for watching the Triple Option. We'll see you on Monday.
If your business is like most, you need things done quickly. But if you're still tying your critical applications together on multiple shared public networks, you've probably been feeling the slowdown. And that's no good for business. A private UPN fiber network can get